If you've received an inactive service notice or reminder from Co-Invest and want to know what it's all about, you've come to the right place. Co-Invest will issue a worker with an inactive service notice where we haven't had any service recorded for them in Victoria for a period of 4 years. So you can get a better understanding of what this implies, we need to start with the basics about your portable long service leave in Victoria. There are two separate parts of any worker's record with Co-Invest, being service and entitlement. To accrue service in Victoria as a worker, you must be performing construction trade work covered under the Long Service Leave Scheme for 5 or more days within a month. Your employer reports that service to Co-Invest, and your service eventually builds towards gaining an entitlement. It's important to remember that there is no money associated with your service, only the time you build up in the industry. It's this time that gives you the weeks of long service leave entitlement, so if you don't accrue the time, you don't gain an entitlement. To see how this works, let's take a closer look at how your service is recorded. Your service record takes into account any work or school time from any covered apprenticeship. As Co-Invest is a portable scheme, your service will increase with each employer you work for in Victoria, both as an apprentice or qualified tradesperson performing work covered by the scheme. You'll be eligible to claim a long service leave entitlement once you've accrued a minimum of 7 years of continuous service. The term continuous service is actually quite generous though, because you can have gaps between recorded service of 1, 2 or 3 years, even up to 3 years and 51 weeks. As long as the break is less than 4 years, you'll be able to build on top of what you had already accrued once you return to the industry in Victoria and hopefully build up your 7 years. When it gets to 3.5 years since your last service was accrued, we'll send you an Inactive Service Reminder letter to let you know how much continuous service you had accrued and that it risks becoming inactive due to your absence from the industry. The letter will also tell you whether there is any entitlement which you can claim from the service you had previously accrued. If the gap stretches to 4 or more years, your previous service will be made inactive, meaning you won't be able to build on top of that service in a continuous manner going forward. But remember, if you had already accrued more than 7 years of continuous service before the 4-year break, you will still have a long service leave entitlement which you can claim at any time. It will never cancel or lapse. If you had accrued any less than 7 years of continuous service before the 4-year break, then your previous service will be made inactive, and there will obviously be no long service leave entitlement to claim, as you wouldn't have accrued the minimum requirement to be eligible for long service leave. So to keep your service active and continuous, you simply need to accrue a little more service before the gap reaches 4 years. Even as little as 5 days of covered work within a month should be enough to keep your service record from becoming inactive. Then, your service record will remain active and continuous, and you won't risk it becoming inactive for another 4 years. But of course, we'll send you a reminder at 3.5 years, so you have the chance to accrue more service again. So what if you've received an inactive service reminder, but you actually had been working in the industry in Victoria in those last 4 years, only Co-Invest hadn't been notified of it? You can lodge a missing service query so we can investigate this for you. You just need to provide evidence that you've been working as an employee in a covered trade in Victoria, and we can look into backdating any missing service for you from that employer and add it to your Co-Invest record. It can make all the difference in keeping your service active for longer, or could even be that last bit of service you're missing to become eligible for an entitlement. Co-Invest has a dedicated team to look into missing service queries for you. Just use the Missing Service Query form to submit your application online. We also know there may be other reasons why you might not have been recording service with Co-Invest. Perhaps you've been working in construction interstate, unable to work through injury or work cover, or maybe even started your own business in Victoria as a subby but forgot to notify Co-Invest. You can effectively apply to pause your account in a suspended state by submitting an application for an approved break in service. It won't credit you with any extra service, but an approved break can even link 2 separate blocks of service together to run as one continuous block. Just use the break in service query form to submit your application online. So whether you've got missing service to investigate, or you need to apply for an approved break in service, scroll down the page to find out how you can submit your query online today.